Thanks to his lightning-fast kicks and ear-shattering cries, Lee mesmerized audiences with movies like Fist of Fury and Enter the Dragon. Whenever this man stepped onto the screen, he moved at ridiculous speeds, took out legions of bad guys with his devastating punching power, and inspired audience members to sign up for martial arts classes in droves. With all that in mind, let's pull out the nunchucks, become like water, and take a look at Bruce Lee's most epic movie fights. Welcome to FilmShack. Lay back, grab your snacks, and enjoy, because today we have the top 10 Bruce Lee fighting scenes ever put to film. Number 10. Fist of Fury, 1972. Final Bout. This is the absolute last fight to occur in Fist of Fury, which sees Bruce Lee's Chen Zhen taking on the head of the Japanese school, moments after dismantling the Russian martial artist they'd brought in as sort of a familial enforcer. Following the master inside the dojo, Lee is met with a barrage of feet, fists, and katana assaults before disarming his opponent with his most famous of weapons, those omnipresent black nunchucks, and kicking him to his death through a large window spilling onto the courtyard. Number 9. Enter the Dragon, 1973. Group fight. Enter the Dragon is Lee's most overrated film. This fact indicates either a degree of critical ignorance on the subject of martial arts cinema or a serious bias in terms of evaluating the aforementioned genre material. That being said, however, the film is in fact memorable, quotable, and well-made. It has one especially good group fight, with Lee moving around through underground warehouses, combating countless security guards with all the weapons at his cumulative disposal. Nunchaku, staffs, smaller Eskrima-style stick weapons. The applications are identical and fully realized. Where the film goes awry is toward its close, when a potentially mind-boggling fight with an adversary everyone is anticipating is avoided in favor of a lesser encounter, and the final bout is simply a disappointment. Few could earnestly disagree. Number 8. Game of Death, 1978. Bruce Lee vs. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Game of Death gave us two iconic images, Bruce Lee wearing the yellow and black jumpsuit and the sight of a 5'8" Lee trading blows with 7'2" Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. In the theatrical release of the film, Abdul-Jabbar is a member of a syndicate that blackmails movie stars. In Lee's longer original scene, the NBA player was the final boss at the top of a pagoda, guarding a treasure and accepting all challengers. But in both versions, it's a David and Goliath scenario, as Abdul-Jabbar's legs are almost longer than Lee's entire body. Sporting sunglasses and short shorts, the basketball player batters Lee with looping punches and long kicks, leaving a massive footprint on the front of Lee's cool yellow suit. For a good chunk of the fight, Lee has trouble closing the distance, and while he manages to get in some good shots, Abdul-Jabbar is so big that Lee gets clobbered anytime he gets close. However, in the original footage, Lee discovers the giant has a weakness: sunlight. Lee begins smashing out windows, causing Abdul-Jabbar to cringe in pain as light floods the room. Eventually, Lee knocks the sunglasses off Abdul-Jabbar's face, leaving him defenseless as Lee sinks in a choke and puts the NBA star out of his misery. Of course, when they weren't filming, Abdul-Jabbar was actually training under Lee, and thanks to their martial arts abilities, the two put on a truly memorable fight, the last one of Bruce Lee's spectacular career. Number 7. Game of Death, 1978. Nunchaku Duel. Here's where, for me, things really achieve some velocity. The dueling master scenario has innate appeal beyond reproach, and once the Eskrima sticks fail against Lee's makeshift bamboo horsewhip, the nunchaku is brought out in symphonic opposition. One thing of special interest about Lee's use of the nunchucks is that they're a traditional Japanese, not Chinese weapon. This brings on complications in something like Fist of Fury, where Lee's protagonist is supposed to be deeply nationalistic with regard to his native China, and especially vengeful in view of his Sifu's death at the hands of the Japanese, so fighting them with their cultural weapons seems strange. For this reason, Bruce Lee really exists in his own specific universe, and those questionable inconsistencies aside, the actual mechanics are astonishing to behold. Number 6. The Big Boss, 1971. Final fight. When Lee shows up at the bad guy's compound, he's so confident in his abilities that he's snacking on chips while fighting the drug dealer's goons. And when he reaches the titular Big Boss, Lee picks the dude up over his head and chucks him across the yard. When the bad guy pulls out some blades, Lee uses his own shirt to keep the drug dealer at bay. Both dudes are jumping around crouching tiger style, and at one point in the fight, Lee takes the big boss to the ground and wraps his legs around the bad guy's legs and starts rolling across the grass like a crocodile. Finally, the fight ends in the most insane way possible. The boss hurls a knife at Lee, and our man kicks it back into the dude's stomach. If that wasn't wild enough, that's when Lee sticks his hands into the drug dealer's guts before ground and pounding him for what feels like an hour. It's a brutal ending, and thanks to Lee's high-flying kicks and powerful punches, The Big Boss became the highest-grossing film in Hong Kong history. Number 5. Fist of Fury, 1972, Penultimate Bout. This was perhaps Bruce Lee's first exhaustive, evenly matched fight up to that point in his career, and seeing the master have to summon inner strength and reformulate his strategy to surmount an adversary is a rare and exciting thing to behold. Only really seen elsewhere in his duel with Norris at the end of Way, and to a degree in his fight with Abdul-Jabbar. We get some pressing information regarding the foe earlier in the film, as he's shown bending metal bars and demolishing cinder blocks with minimal effort. We get a sense of him as an imposing, physically durable opponent, and even though Lee's Chen has obliterated everyone he's been confronted with, the fight has a lot of precarious wonder to it. Number 4. The Way of the Dragon, 1972, Group Battle. Way of the Dragon saw Bruce Lee's re-employment of a strategy from his first film, The Big Boss, in that the extent of his character's skills was withheld for some time, allowing crucial anticipation to develop. When his abilities are finally revealed, the fight is terse and technical. But the second go-around with a massive collection of mob enforcers in the same alley is one of the great iconic scenes of its kind. The way he single-handedly anticipates foe after foe before fighting his way inside and turning the tide of the developing hostage situation is one of those exhibitions forever ingrained in the minds of countless moviegoers, and the synthesis of the contemporary Western world with his ancient warrior's presence wouldn't be complete without those ubiquitous nunchucks. Number 3. The Way of the Dragon, 1972, Tang Lung vs. COLT. These days, Norris is most famous for all of those terrible jokes about his overblown persona. But we often forget he's a legit martial artist who won multiple karate championships. In fact, the man had way more fight experience than Lee, who never fought professionally. But when the Shaggy Ninja shows up for a showdown, he gets some free hair removal and a really bad beating. The two legends throw down in the Coliseum, watched the whole time by a curious cat, and after some pre-fight stretching, the Battle of the Titans begins. Norris is absolutely ferocious, and it's clear this guy has the strength advantage. He drops Lee with a spinning roundhouse kick, lands a solid combination of elbows and body shots, and then judo tosses Lee to the floor. But everything changes when Lee starts dancing around the Coliseum like he's Muhammad Ali. The movement makes all the difference, and the flat-footed Norris can't keep up. In a beautiful slow-motion sequence, we watch Lee dodge and parry blows before unleashing a stunning 4-kick combo that turns the fight in his favor. Eventually, Lee brings the greatest martial arts showdown to a close by killing Norris with a sick guillotine choke. Try walking that off, Texas Ranger. Number 2. The Big Boss, 1971, Factory Fight. In The Big Boss, Bruce Lee, in his first leading role, plays a young man who's trying to avoid fistfights after promising his mom he wouldn't get into any more trouble. Unfortunately, things are kind of rough at work. Our hero spends his days sweating at an ice factory, and he soon discovers his boss is secretly a drug dealer with a bad habit of killing people, including members of Lee's family. After his cousins go mysteriously missing, Lee explores the ice factory and finds his relatives chopped up and frozen. But before he can call the cops, an army of henchmen shows up, armed with everything from chains and knives to tongs and ice choppers. Fortunately for viewers, Lee isn't afraid to get inventive. He blinds his enemies with sawdust, cracks a dude's head with a flashlight, and slashes his foes with a handsaw. Sure, Lee is majorly outnumbered, but the odds are still on his side. He dodges knives and jumps over thugs like he's Superman leaping tall buildings. When Lee gets his own blade, we're treated to geysers of blood spurting across the screen. The man even grabs some thug by the crotch and tosses him across the screen. But the best moment comes when Lee punches a dude through a wooden shed, leaving a Looney Tunes-style hole in the wall, complete with outstretched arms. In other words, the Ice Factory fight is really cool. Number 1. Fist of Fury, 1972. Chen vs. Japanese School. Lee just casually struts into enemy territory like he's taking an afternoon stroll. And soon, he's surrounded by a circle of karate masters. It's a shot that obviously inspired the crazy '88 battle in Kill Bill Volume 1, and Bruce is just as devastating as the bride. When the bad guys rush in, Lee opens up the fight with a massive 8 kicks in just 6 seconds, sending these fools flying. Crazier still, he grabs 2 dudes, one in each hand, and swings them in circles, helicopter style. Better still, this is the first time in cinematic history when Lee gets to show off his nunchaku skills and whacks a whole lot of skulls before dropping to the ground and slapping some shins. As the fight goes on, the circle of Japanese gets smaller and smaller until Lee goes one-on-one with their teacher. Screeching like a tiger, he makes the master look like an amateur. And when he finally leaves the dojo, all the karateka are KO'd on the floor. We would like to invite you to share your opinion with us. Do you agree with our list? Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications bell. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye!